Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanala Anadurai, and I am a firm believer that women and girls are powerful agents of change. When you invest in a girl, you are investing in her family, her community, and essentially our entire world. I serve on the Teen Advisory Board of a United Nations Foundation campaign called Girl Up, and as a Girl Up Teen Advisor, I join girls all around the world in standing up, speaking up, and rising up for girls living in places where it is extremely difficult to be a girl. These upcoming panelists fight gender inequality every single day and serve as incredible inspirations for young women like me hoping to make a difference in the world. Please join me in welcoming Amber Khan, Head of Global Communications with Women for Women International, Stacey Martinet with Mashable, and global rights activist and global actor Frida Pinto.
Hi. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well,
should we sit closer, further?
Wherever you're comfortable.
Big couch.
Okay. Yeah. I got the whole couch.
Hey, there you go. Loungy.
I'll sit in the middle.
After that introduction, I don't know what else we can say. You know, that's the future. But you both have so much to say, and you've been thinking about the issue of equal rights and feminism for a long time. Gender equality is one of the global goals, but it affects so many of the other goals: poverty, ending hunger, maternal health, climate change. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about feminism. It's an issue that's centered to equal rights for women, but I actually want to start off with this notion of what's the role of men in feminism? And Frida, why don't you share your thoughts on that?
You know, it's so interesting because the ideas that we're going to be putting out here, Amber and I, along with you, Stacey, are not very radical in the sense that, you know, they are not something that people haven't heard of before. And then I can go as far as saying that we are stating the obvious. But having said that, historical progress has shown that you have got to say it over and over and over again till people actually go, there is some truth in that, and let us join this movement. And I feel the reason why we want to include men all the time in this conversation is because when we talk about women's rights and girls' rights and equal rights to education, gender equality, we forget that we are talking about a human race. We're not just talking about just women, because what happens to women does absolutely affect men. And that is why we bring men into our conversation as well. To have attitudes and behaviors changed at the male level actually really helps to understand how we can actually encourage men, fathers, brothers, uncles, cousins, to actually send their daughters to school, to be able to actually start this conversation of gender equality. Now, I can really speak about mostly when it comes to the entertainment world. And we all know there is this massive disparity, whether it's a wage disparity or also representation disparity. And I feel when you sit in that boardroom where scripts are being written, where the final yeses and nos are being given, and you know when you look around that there are only probably 2 women sitting in a boardroom full of men, there is already this pressure on those 2 women as well as on those 15 men sitting in the room to play what society thinks that their parts are. So the men have to apparently play to their masculinity, and the female gender, because they do not want to be termed as uncool, seem to have to chime in. And I feel that is where we want to really change the attitudes, and with organizations like yours, with storytelling organizations such as mine, which is Girl Rising, we want to be able to make men feel okay with the fact that they can stand up for women's rights, even without having that fear of seemingly playing up to their masculine roles. And that's what we are really hoping to change through storytelling, because we do believe that it's observational learning. You know, there's education and there's learning, and I think learning is for life, and storytelling really enhances observational learning.
Yeah. And Amber, where are you seeing this happening?
Well, I think 2 things. One, absolutely correct. I think that the idea of looking at and talking about gender equality or moving the issues that we care so passionately about that are integrated in every one of those sustainable development goals, we know that women have to be a part of it. But we know that the barriers, we just heard earlier about financial inclusion, we heard about access, we heard about infrastructure earlier this morning, hearing about women in crisis. You know, at the beginning, at the top of the day, we started with women in crisis, and it really got my attention. And it made me think about the connection between these two. And when Women for Women started, we were co-founded by Zainab and Amjad. And the organization started with this real recognition that women survivors in conflict, their needs were not being met. Being able to address the fact that the needs that women have to recover and to deal with trauma or to confront challenges they have requires an environment that allows them to heal and to develop a sense of well-being. Well, what we've also learned is that when women become able to find that safe space and begin to learn new skills or think about how to rebuild their lives, learn about their rights, and they go home and they share what they've learned, and the men in their household, in their community, the community leaders, they don't have that awareness. They haven't learned about their rights. It's not part of that awareness. So when Women for Women began working, and this may be a surprise for anyone who's been a supporter who may not know, because we're Women for Women, and we have trained over 430,000 women, but we've been working with men. And we're working with men not because we decided to do that in Washington or in New York. The women who graduated from our program in Nigeria in 2001 sat in a focus group, and we asked them, okay, you've learned about family planning practices, and the women we're working with have been marginalized by so many experiences, and they're really trying to apply these lessons. And what they said to us over and over is, we need the men to hear what we're doing. So we began piloting men's engagement training programs in Afghanistan, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which we've heard a lot about, a lot of references today. And the impact of creating a safe space for men to come together, to hear from other men, to learn about women's rights, to explore what is masculinity, what is a gender-based division of labor, and to go through role playing. And that experience has been transformative. I mean, the impact in attitude change and behavior change in DRC and Afghanistan alone have really inspired us to expand our work with men, because we are at this point, Frida, and you're absolutely right. We cannot move forward alone as women, because that's not what the future looks like. It's gonna be together. We need to create a path that moves us together, and finding ways to work with men can be extraordinarily powerful when we recognize that we need to engage and create space. I mean, the story of the men in Afghanistan recently who donned burqas, to challenge and to raise awareness. We were just talking about this. They were attacked. They were really challenged for having the courage to stand up.
Yeah, and last year at this time, the He for She campaign launched. Some of you may remember that, and I think it's created an awareness of how men and all genders can participate in feminism. So I'm going to ask something that might be a little taboo. Okay. I'll be ready for the tweets. Aside from the name of the organization, Women for Women, let's talk about the concept of Women for Women, because in some ways it feels like we've band together to do so much, and in some ways it feels like, women themselves are competing with each other for opportunities. So
yeah, I think that's because it's culturally, we're almost subjected to this behavior of antagonism. There is just this much of the pie for women out there because the opportunities are still being created. They're not all there. Our resources are not all intact. So it's almost like this forced culture of antagonism where we feel that we have to compete with each other to pull them down to make sure that we get our step forward. And as far as I'm concerned, we continue doing this, the whole word feminism will continue to be misunderstood.
Well, that's interesting you say that. Before coming here, I asked my I'm not going to tell who she is.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. You told me, but don't say that. I told you I won't say that.
Who said, we were talking about this conversation we were going to have, and she's 50, and she said, I'm not a feminist. And I was like, what? And my 15-year-old son said, how can you not be a feminist? I'm a feminist.
Absolutely.
Seriously. Yay, right? I mean, I actually stepped back And I let him have this conversation with her. I'm not going to tell you who she was. And it was really fascinating to me because I think the word and its association, listening, and just not reacting, but listening to what she was saying, the word became such a flashpoint for her about what it meant to be a woman,
Absolutely.
about how she related to other women, that it was really fascinating to watch how my 15-year-old was having this conversation about rights and opening doors and creating opportunities. And we realized we're all in the same place. Of course, she's in the same place.
Right.
But it was that word.
Yes.
It was that word. And cultural context matters. So when we talk about engaging and working with each other and supporting each other, the words that we use matter.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely. No, and I agree. I feel as far as progress is concerned, if women don't learn to raise women up, if we end up fighting with each other over the word, over the term, we're not going to be able to include our male race into this fight for the human race, actually. Gender equality is really a human fight. It's not really a female fight. So we're not going to be able to do this very progressively. And I really appeal to every woman in this room, whether you sit in a boardroom, whether you're an entertainer, whatever, you're a lawyer, whatever it is that you do for a living, I think kindness and what is the other word, empathy and ethics should be part of the global goals in order to make the other global goals possible. We need to really learn to raise each other up.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because as you were saying that, I was thinking about, we've talked a lot about the challenges we face as we look at the global goals. Earlier this year, we launched a campaign called She Inspires Me. And if you go to our website, you find these stories, right? And it's with the hashtag She Inspires Me because we need inspiration and because change is possible. And in all of these stories, what comes out over and over again is, the women who had enrolled in the program were struggling. They were isolated. Many of them are survivors of sexual violence. I mean, these are conflict zones that continue to deal with unexpected, fragile challenges to economics, to security, to the ability to be able to use money and use the transaction, use the bank account because of the legal constraints that may exist in their community. But these stories have a couple things in common. And one that came out over and over again was the transformation that happens inside because she got support from other women. Because when they join the program, you enroll and it's not like, okay, now go to a training. You are joined to 25 other women and you stay together through the 12 months to learn, to share, to heal, and to try new things. I mean, these are grown women who, the majority of them have not finished primary school. In some of the countries where we work, 88% are illiterate and innumerate. And that's hard. And their mothers and their sisters and daughters struggling to survive. Finding the courage and the support and feeling that sense of dignity of I can do it came from the other women.
I mean, I think that's what we're all here for, is the power of a community, right? No matter what issue that you're tackling, having that community is amazing. And, we use the word corporate, which doesn't conjure up feelings of community, but we all need to have jobs. And so I wonder what you see has changed or is changing or the role is with corporate, and is that just a Western notion because we have bigger fish to fry, so to speak, in the developing nation, or how are we thinking about that?
Right, so I'm not really from the corporate world, clearly, you all know that. But in the last 3 years, with the Project Girl Rising, I've had to appeal to a lot of corporate leaders to listen to what it is that we're doing in terms of the observational learning, which is storytelling, and to try and enroll their support in. And I feel the two words that I always appeal to them, when I go to them, I say to them, it's like, all I'm trying to do here in the corporate world to get your help with our program, with our organization, is to actually start by explaining the difference between charity and philanthropy. Because charity is very short term, and philanthropy is sustained impact. And so we really need your help. Maybe you start at your own corporate level within your offices by allowing more women representation, But maybe you also have your men come out into the field to see what it is that we're doing, to encourage other men at your big companies to help us out in actually, whether it's raising the funds, whether helping out with programs, and just community-led interventions. And so as far as my interaction with the corporate world goes, that is as far as it goes. But I have to say, in the corporate world, I just learned something from Madeline backstage, because she is so amazing. She and I were going through doing a live tweet, and I asked her if there is one message that I wanted to take out into, say, the corporate world, for example, to women and men in the corporate world. What is it that you would like me to say? And she said, I would like women to know that they have the power to interrupt, because there are so few of us, and that if we don't say our bit in the time that we know that we want to say it, and another man in the room says it, and all the other men clap and go, yeah, that's a very good idea, you just feel dumb that you were not the one who stood up and just said it when you were thinking it. So I feel the fear of not being heard needs to be erased.
It's very isolating, isn't it?
It is very isolating, and it really, this is the difference between strength and courage as well. You know, it really takes courage to just go out there and say your bit. We all have strength, but courage is what really will propel us forward. So I feel what she said was so important to me, the power to interrupt. But when you interrupt, this is the catch. When you interrupt, be sure you have your material in place, because that's when you don't want to be taken for a ride. You don't want people to go, we don't want to be listening to this woman. So I think it's very good advice, and for all the women in the corporate world, for all women sitting in the entertainment boardrooms, let's recognize this power to interrupt.
And I think you can use that power to interrupt in a couple of ways. I mean, we've actually seen a tremendous number of corporations recognizing and really seeking to find a way to demonstrate the value that they place on gender and gender equality, and working to identify programs and opportunities to invest. And I actually think that's I was talking to a colleague recently about, she's looking for a way to develop a sense of leadership within her community and in specifically at work. And she's young, and I said, get involved in the corporate social philanthropic arm of your office, and participate in identifying and articulating issues that you care about and creating a space for that. And it's interesting, because I think that there is a critical role in a variety of ways that corporations play in addressing and supporting not only the ability for businesses to be able to promote, but also to support causes and opportunities, the storytelling, as well as the investment in programs that are creating a positive change, that are going to support the economy, that are going to create and build stronger markets, and they're going to engage and increase the number of women participating in those local communities, which overall strengthens the community. I mean, it's good for business.
Yeah. So the question is, are we all feminists? I suspect the answer from both of you will be yes, so assuming that I have that right. Quick, 10, 15 seconds, why are we all feminists? Or why should we all be feminists?
Well, I think because, like I've been saying, this is really gender equality is not just my fight, it is all the men in the room, this is your fight as well. And I feel the word feminism, once we truly understand that what it actually helps us all do, whether it's our right to vote, it's a right to own property, it's a right to just share these equal rights. I mean, if there's anyone who's against it and can come up with a very, very, very good reason why we should be against it, then I might listen to you. But no one in 2015 has come out with a good enough reason to why I shouldn't believe in equal rights. And so that is why I'm a feminist.
Thank you.
Look, I'm the mom of 2 boys, and the biggest feminist in my house is my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on record and say mine too.
Yeah.
So Drake Martinet, wherever you are. Yeah.
And I think that makes us a really powerful, it not only sends a powerful message, he is a tremendous support and a role model, and I already see that translating in the way that my boys behave and think and contemplate. But beyond even my household, I mean, a quick story, we do a men's engagement program in Afghanistan. And one of the things we do is engage with local leaders, and a local elder who's a local mullah outside of Jalalabad. And his story is on our website, but after coming through the men's engagement training, he realized he had a voice. And he had this power to change. And the next time, you know, he shared the story of when a man came and asked if he could have permission to marry his young daughter for the dowry. He said no.
Oh, wow.
He said no.
Yeah.
And he realized and now sees this place that he has to change, you know, the local attitudes, the cultures, and to create opportunity. And, you know, that to me embodies the potential of what is possible. And I think that we all fit under that umbrella, regardless of what you call it.
So we heard this is a human issue, and it's about kindness, it's about ethics, empathy, and we all have the power to do a little bit of something. So thank you both so much for your insights and your leadership.
Thank you.